Have you ever noticed that birthdays don't feel the way they used to? As a child, your birthday felt like one of the biggest days of the year. You counted the days, imagined the gifts, and looked forward to celebrating with your family and friends. But as an adult, that excitement often fades. Many people even choose to ignore their birthdays altogether. So why does this happen? The answer begins with the way your brain processes rewards. When you're young, birthdays are full of uncertainty. You don't know what gifts you'll receive, who will surprise you, or what the day will bring. This uncertainty activates your brain's reward system. Interestingly, dopamine, often called the feel-good chemical, is released most strongly during anticipation, not after the reward itself. The excitement comes from not knowing what's about to happen. As you grow older, birthdays become far more predictable. You usually know who will wish you, where you'll celebrate, and sometimes even what gifts you'll receive. Since your brain can predict the outcome, it releases less dopamine. Psychologists call this reward prediction. Simply put, the more predictable an event becomes, the less exciting it feels. Another reason is something called hedonic adaptation. This is your brain's ability to get used to repeated experiences. The first birthday feels unforgettable. The 10th still feels special. But after celebrating the same event for years, your brain begins treating it as routine rather than something extraordinary. However, predictability isn't the biggest reason birthdays lose their magic. The biggest change happens in the way you think about the day itself. As you grow older, birthdays stop being about the future and slowly become about the past. Without even realizing it, your brain starts using your birthday as a checkpoint. It begins asking questions like, have I achieved enough? Am I where I expected to be? What have I done this year? Psychologists refer to this as self-evaluation. Instead of focusing on the celebration, your attention shifts to your progress. If you've had a good year, your birthday often feels satisfying. But if you've experienced setbacks, your birthday can amplify feelings of disappointment. Another psychological factor is social comparison. Today, it's almost impossible to avoid seeing other people's birthdays online. Luxury vacations, expensive gifts, large parties. Your brain naturally compares your experience with theirs. This doesn't necessarily make you jealous, but it can make your own celebration feel less meaningful. Research shows that people often judge their happiness by comparing themselves to others, rather than by evaluating their own situation objectively. Then there's another fascinating change. As we age, time seems to pass faster. This is known as the proportional theory of time perception. When you're 10 years old, 1 year is 10% of your entire life. But when you're 30, 1 year is only about 3% of your life. Because each passing year represents a smaller fraction of your experiences, your brain perceives it as passing more quickly. That's why birthdays seem to arrive sooner every year. When something feels frequent, it also feels less special. There's also the role of responsibility. As children, birthdays are planned for us. As adults, we're often the ones planning everything. Booking a restaurant, replying to messages, organizing a gathering, sometimes even paying for the celebration ourselves. The brain gradually stops viewing the day as a reward and starts treating it as another responsibility. By this point, it's clear that birthdays haven't actually changed. The way your brain experiences them has. But there's one final psychological reason why some people stop celebrating birthdays altogether. And it has nothing to do with age. The final reason birthdays feel different has nothing to do with the birthday itself. It has to do with expectations. As children, our expectations are simple. We expect to have fun. As adults, our expectations become much more complicated. We expect the day to feel special. We expect people to remember. We expect meaningful conversations, thoughtful gifts, or memorable experiences. The problem is, reality doesn't always match those expectations. And when expectations are high, even a good birthday can feel disappointing. Psychologists call this the expectation gap. The greater the difference between what we expect and what actually happens, the greater the disappointment. Another interesting factor is familiarity. Your brain naturally pays less attention to events it has experienced many times before. This is known as habituation. After celebrating 20 or 30 birthdays, the event no longer feels novel. Your brain processes it as something familiar, requiring less attention and emotional energy. That doesn't mean birthdays have become less meaningful. It simply means your brain has become more efficient at processing them. However, studies have found something interesting. People who celebrate birthdays by creating new experiences, rather than repeating old traditions, often report enjoying them more. This is because novelty activates the brain's reward system. Trying a new activity, visiting a new place, or spending time with different people gives your brain something unexpected to process. The celebration becomes memorable, not because it's a birthday, but because it's a new experience. So, why do we no longer feel like celebrating our birthdays? It's not because we've lost the ability to enjoy them. It's because our brains have changed the way they interpret them. Birthdays become predictable. We adapt to them. We compare ourselves with others. We evaluate our progress. We feel that time is moving faster, and our expectations become harder to satisfy. The birthday hasn't changed. Your psychology has. The next time your birthday arrives, don't ask yourself, why doesn't it feel like it used to? Instead, ask, what can I do differently this year? Because your brain isn't looking for another birthday. It's looking for something new. And sometimes, that's all it takes to make a familiar day feel special again.